what an audience. Good morning. Yeah, as she introduced me, and I'm a creator of Ruby language, and yeah, I'm here in EuRuKo 2018, and I'm pretty happy to be here because the EuRuKo is one of the most diverse Ruby conference. The people are from many countries, and people have different native language, like I do in Japanese. And you don't speak Japanese, most of them. And then, yeah, we have different background, different history, and different preference. But we are here for Ruby, and I'm glad that we do that. And we celebrated the 25th anniversary of Ruby language because I started developing Ruby in the February 24th, 1993. At that day, I named it Ruby. The software is some kind of the virtual entity. We have no physical software. So that the name is pretty much important for the software. So that the concept of the Ruby language was made up when I named it. So the little background story. So I started developing Ruby in 1993, and then just for fun. And we have a lot of, I was interested in programming language when I was a kid. So actually, I started programming when I was 15, and soon after that, I got interested in programming language in general. So that most people, including my friends, have some kind of the interest in creating software, like games, or maybe some kind of applications or something. But instead of the desire to create the software, I wanted to create my own programming language back then, when I was in high school. But I had a problem back then. It was early 80s, so that we don't have internet back then. That is a huge drawback. And then, you can learn only from books and magazines. And back then, the knowledge from the books for the high school students are very, very limited. So that I couldn't code my interpreter. I couldn't create my software. Instead, I tried to write the software on papers in my ideal programming language. But it was kind of pity. 10 years later, so that I studied computer science in the university. After I graduated, I worked as the software developer in a company, and then I got some kind of skills then, so that I decided to create my own programming language in 1993. So that I wanted to create a language like Perl, but better, just because I just wanted to create language, not for any particular purpose, but if I was a Unix C programmer back then, and I'm still am, and if my biggest programming language was C, and it's nearly impossible to create a language that beats C because of it's highly dependent on the operating systems and highly dependent on the target, the CPU and the target architecture. So that it is kind of impossible. So that instead, I create a lot of scripting. I did a lot of scripting. So that using the programming language like shells and the Perl, so that if I created the better scripting language, I could use it for my own task. So that I do want some kind of that dog fooding of my software programming. So that I combined the Pro, C, Smalltalk, and Lisp in one, and then created the Ruby. And then the total number of users back then is 1. Me. And then a few years later, 1995, December 21st, 1995, I put it on the internet. Yeah, we had internet then. And then a few weeks later, I created some kind of the mailing list to discuss about the language, and many people joined to the mailing list, and the total number of the members of that mailing list was 200 2 weeks later. So the total number of Ruby users back then is 200. Year 2000, the guy named Dave Thomas and Andy Hunt wrote a book about Ruby in English. We called it the Pickaxe Books because we saw pickaxe on the front page of the book. And that book was sold more than 10,000. So the total number of the Ruby users back then is a little bit more than 10,000, I guess. Or maybe some people just bought a book, but no, you didn't use Ruby. Okay, the estimated total number of users was 10,000, I assume. Okay, in the year 2001, we had the first RubyConf, first ever RubyConf in Tampa, Florida. The attendees of the first Ruby conference, the Ruby conference was 30 plus. Quite small. In the year 2007, last year, we had a RubyConf in New Orleans, USA, and I think it's 700 plus. And this year, we have EuRuKo 2018, and this is how big it is. I don't know, 500 something? I wish I could understand German. I don't know the opportunities, but at least a few hundred here. Okay, we have total number of users worldwide is probably over a million. Whoa! So that we started from one user to the people, 1 million plus users. So the Ruby became popular. Ruby used everywhere, from small to big, and then numerous applications written in Ruby. Ruby should be stable because if I make some kind of incompatible change, so that many people would scream, ah! And then compatibility matters. But as a designer's viewpoint, so that we made mistakes. I made mistakes, and the people, designers, creators of other programming languages makes mistakes. So that we often wants to fix those mistakes. So that some things happens over the year. For example, more than 10 years ago, I made the new version of the Ruby 1.9, which is very incompatible from Ruby 1.8. And for other programming languages like Python 3 has a huge gap between the Python 2 and PHP 6. You don't see PHP 6 because the developers of the PHP language try to fix those mistakes all at once, and then PHP 6 was canceled because no one wants to use that because your PHP software didn't work on PHP 6, so they canceled PHP 6 and restarted PHP 7 from PHP 5. You don't see ECMAScript 4, which was also canceled. So the people in ECMA try to create the super duper better JavaScript named ECMAScript 4, But it was too complex, and no one in the community wanted to use that. So it was canceled. So that kind of things happens all the time. But I wanted, as community grows bigger, so that even the slightest change may crash the code. So that every change can be very bad in some aspect. Imagine your app crashes with upgrade to the Ruby newer version of Ruby. I bet you will be upset. You know, the newer version is better in some aspect, but in most of the case, you don't care. you just wanted to your software run with newer version, so that you'd have some kind of mixed feeling. You will be upset by the breakage, and you will be glad to have the newer, better programming language. But you know, it's kind of like a punishment to the users of fixing my errors. That it sometimes happens. So that I want to fix my error for my sake, but the punishments do not come unto me, but you. That's not good. So the compatibility is pretty much important. So that at the same time, the OSS community is kind of weird things. So the community can't expect, we cannot expect strong loyalty to the community because, you know, I don't pay you to use Ruby. So you just chose Ruby for various reasons. But if you have something, if you find something better, you can easily switch to the newer tools, newer languages. So we, the creators, we need to attract community. Otherwise, community members will go away. So that to other programming languages like JavaScript, Go, or whatever, and then we will eventually fade away. The Ruby community eventually will fade away. So that it's kind of like OSS community is like a shark. So that we cannot stop swimming. We have to keep moving forward. So that open source software cannot stop. So we have to keep making progress. So that otherwise we will die. So it's kind of a contradiction. We have to keep compatibility, not to punish the users. But we have to keep progressing to attract users. Either way, we will die. We cannot stop. We have to do something to survive. What shall we do? The rebuilding languages, as I told you, we have tons of examples. Perl 6, PHP 6, JavaScript, ECMAScript 4, Python 3, Ruby 1.9. We had some kind of tragedy of the community split. You know, when I released the Ruby 1.9, it had a huge incompatibility, so that more than half of the community kept using the old version 1.8. And we creators, we core developers make many improvements on newer version, but half of the community were left out, so that they kept using old versions. Similar thing happens to other softwares, other languages, so that many people still using Python 2, even after it was Python 3 was released in, I don't know, 10 years ago or something. And or many people still using the old version, old Perl 5 or something like that. So that, but we cannot keep compatibility forever because of by keeping language harder, so that stable. So we can be the language like Fortran and COBOL. So that we seek something in between. So Ruby is not the fast language. Ruby is not the most powerful language. So we use Ruby because Ruby is good enough for most of the cases.
We use Ruby because Ruby is comfortable. We use Ruby because Ruby is nice. And yeah, because of the human-centric design of the language. So Ruby is a nice language. So the being nice could bring power. So that I advise you to be nice, consider users, and talk with potential users. We do. And our prediction to the future of the language will be the keeping compatibility and improvement performance and the productivity. Ruby needs compatibility, as I told you. And the compatibility is important. Not because we are conservative, not because we are afraid of changes, but because it makes up progress. So that without compatibility, community keeps using old versions. So don't pursue beauty of the software. So that, yeah, we sometimes make mistakes. But, yeah, we can't help it. But don't try to punish the users by fixing those errors, those mistakes. It's a kind of selfish trap of designers for all software, not only for languages, but all softwares. You may make mistakes in your app, but don't try to fix it along with the punishment to the users. Yeah, if it's okay, let's fix it. If it's okay, but if some bad things happens to the users, that leave it as it is, as they are, I mean. So Ruby needs performance because no one complains faster Ruby. So that we have that project named Ruby 3x3. The Ruby 3 will be 3 times faster than Ruby 2.0. And we have improved the GC. Since Ruby 2.0, we introduced a generational garbage collector, incremental garbage collector, and we are working on some kind of sleepy GC, which try to garbage collect when the virtual machine is idle. And we are also working on the transitional heap, which is the kind of the compaction for the allocating memory from the strings and arrays and hashes. And we are also working with the JET, just-in-time compiler. And we are working on something named MJET, which will be released with Ruby 2.6, which it's going to be released in coming December, so that you will see the C Ruby with JET compiler. But don't expect too much. It is just a prototype. So yeah, it executes the simple benchmark software up to 6 times faster. Yeah, it sounds very interesting. But the bigger real-world application will not be run faster. Actually, your Rails application might run slower using JET. Yeah, don't worry too much. It is not executed by default. And the guy named Vladimir Makarov, which originally created the MJET, so also work on the newer lightweight JET compiler named Mail, and which may be introduced in the future Ruby. Okay, we are going to other improvement for concurrency, especially. Single core may not become faster any longer, so that we are in the age of multi-cores, so that we need parallelism to make the software run faster. So we need better concurrency abstraction. Actually, one of my biggest regret in the history of Ruby design is introducing threads. Because thread is so primitive and it's so difficult to use it correctly. So that we need more better concurrency abstraction. So that we are working on something named Gales. It is code name, and we will name it probably different in the final release. But we are working on something. it's kind of like actors. And then to utilize more cores. So that, and then, yeah, performance solve many problems, so that the Ruby will be run faster in the future. Actually, so that if you really want the faster performance right now, we have JRuby, and it runs faster for the most of the cases. And then, yeah, he's working on Truffle Ruby, which is way faster, according to the Growl VM. Yeah, thanks to that. Yeah, and then the Truffle Ruby that proves the dynamic language like Ruby can execute even faster. Okay, besides performance, we need productivity. So for the productivity, the topic of productivity, we often talk about types. Typing is hard in the region of programming language, especially static typing. So the language of the 2010s, like a Swift, Go, Rust, Crystal, so the all statically typed. So maybe older programming languages like Scala, Haskell, Clojure, they are also statically typed too. So should we introduce static types into Ruby? Should we? As other languages do. For example, the Python introduced a type hinting in Python 3. And the JavaScript introduced the flow and the TypeScript. Or PHP also introduced a type hinting. So should we do that? We have something named the gradual typing, which is some kind of the static typing to the dynamic types of programming languages like Ruby, Lisp, or Python, PHP. And then when we write the type annotations, we can check types statically, and where we don't, just leave them as they are. So that is the concept of the gradual typing. But should we do that as other languages do? The answer is no. For some reasons. The biggest reason is it's not dry. Don't repeat yourself is the very famous phrase from the Pragmatic Programmer's book. It's the principle to avoid redundant. So that when programming works without them, about type annotation, it works right now without type annotation because we don't have them. So that we can remove them from the language. Of course, I know static typing has its benefit. For example, the language with the static typing tends to be performed better, and the type annotation can be worked as a documentation, and with static typing, we can find more errors more earlier, and then in compile time. So they are very good benefit of the static typing. I admit dynamic typing lacks these kind of benefit, so that we have to write tests to ensure that your type is correct. And Ruby tends to be slower than, say, the Java or Scala. And but what if we could have them without any type annotation? For performance, they proved, for example, the Growl people proved that, or V8 people had proven the dynamic programming language like Ruby and JavaScript can be as fast as, say, the static type programming language. So the pure JavaScript do not have static typing, but the V8 from Google is one of the fastest VMs. So that in theory, VM can be fast without static typing. So the performance is okay without type annotation. So the early static type checking, so that we can tell types without type annotations. Yeah, we have something named the type inference for many cases. Like a language like, say, the Haskell and Scala. 5 more minutes. Whoa. Language like Scala. So when the compiler can infer the type of the expression, so that you don't have to write type annotation. And we are experimenting on some technologies. One of them is runtime type aggregation. So that when you execute your, say, test set script programs, the virtual machine can get to collect the type information at runtime, then use those information in the next time you compile it. So that it is called next type runtime type aggregation. So the last year in Ruby Kaigi, the people from JetBrains showed us something a prototype of this kind of the runtime type aggregation to implement some kind of the static type checking for their RubyMine IDE. And we are also making experiment on AI, which stands for the abstract interpretation. The abstract interpretation is the tracing the possible runtime path without actual executing of the code. So that by using this kind of technology, that we can have the similar result like a runtime type aggregation without executing the code. So those experimental projects, we have some experimental projects like a STEEP, which is the type checking system, the independent static type analysis tools. The Sobe is from the Stripe company, credit card payment company. The Stripe, the people from the Stripe made some kind of experimental project named the Solbed, which is quite interesting. And MRuby MJet is the prototype of that AI stuff, artificial abstract inference. Okay, and type annotation can work as a documentation. Yeah, we cannot help it without type annotation, but programming will be more conversational, like IDE. So that by using those kind of tools, like the intelligent editors, intelligent IDE, you can have the same amount of information by seeing the pop-ups, or maybe in the code completion or something like that. So that I call it interactive programming. So that we have the IDE like a RubyMine, or maybe from the Microsoft, they propose the protocol named the language server protocol, which can share those kind of the intelligence of the software development in the independent server. So that by implementing the language server protocol, so that you can have those kind of the intelligent help of the development to, say, the VS Code, or maybe in Atom, or maybe in Vim, or maybe in Emacs that I use. So in the future, actually, in the past long history of the programming language, the static and dynamic has some kind of the battle. Then sometimes the dynamic is strong, and sometimes static is strong. In those years, like 2010s, the static type programming language is stronger, I admit, but cycles go on. So that if we foresee 10 years later, type annotation may become obsolete, because we can have those information from IDE or editors. So that, and I believe it will. And I will regret adding type annotation. so I want add it. So to make the better future. And making the better future is our goal. So actually, no one can see the future. We can just foresee. We can just pretend to see. So that we just predict. So that one must make his own steps according to his prediction or belief. So the best way to predict the future is to invent it. So that I predict the future of the programming language will not come with the type annotations. So I try to create the future without any type annotation. So we are creating future. We have a lot of things to be done, and I'm sure they will benefit the community. And remember, we try to be nice. We are trying to make Ruby nicer, and then that means more powerful Ruby, more comfortable Ruby, more and faster Ruby. And the being nice is our way to create the future. Obviously, Ruby community is not just Ruby, Ruby the language. We have tons of frameworks, the gems, and people, and apps. So your gems can be nicer, your apps can be nicer. That means we need your cooperation to create the future of Ruby language and the Ruby community. In summary, be nice. Be nice to each other. Yeah, we can be stronger by being nice. Being nice includes moving forward to survive, keeping compatibility, and a gradual change. Don't make a big step. And providing benefit to the future. Let's move forward to survive. Thank you.
Wow. What am I supposed to say after this?
Let's move on to the next session.
Well, you should be emceeing. You're doing a way better job. So, especially because I have bad news, we're cutting this break short. Not 15 minutes, but 10 minutes. So be quick about it. Yeah, I see some really disappointed faces. Worst job ever.
I'm sorry.
You can the water you can drink from the tap here because it's Vienna, it's Austria. You can just drink from the tap. And if you got a cup, like the reusable cups, please use them because save the world. Yeah. Okay. See you later.